All right, guys. Thank you for joining me today. So, listen, the meeting is based upon what's going on in the Canary Islands, right? The what is that called? La Palma volcano or island, rather. Sorry, had a volcano go off a couple of days ago, almost a week now, and a lot of people here in the East Coast and probably South America, Central America as well, are nervous, if you will, about the what is it, the west southwest flank that might break off into the ocean and cause a mega tsunami. Now, I did a lot of research on this prior to this volcano, and I was never worried about it, you know, at all. So when this started popping up again and people started talking about it as if it was imminent, again, I'm not worried about it. I don't see, listen, this can happen tomorrow. This can happen 2 hours from now. This can happen 30, 40 years from now. So a lot of people who are, either a nervous wreck or I don't know, playing into the hands of, I would say, fear mongers. We need to dial that back just a little bit. Even, if any preppers are nervous about the whole situation, they need to do a little more research and dive into what can happen and what can't happen. Now, again, like I said before, I'm not nervous about this. I don't think anybody should be nervous about it, but there needs to be more correct information, or there needs to be correct information being thrown out there. So one of the things that I looked up was the wave height, right? So there was a study actually done back in 2001. When the study was done, it was done by these two nerd scientists in England, and they've been following the Canary Islands for a long time. After they released that paper back in 2001, they stated that there wasn't going to be a 100-foot high or 300-foot high tsunami wave or swell, if you will. So these guys did the math. They did the, how you say it, the land mass is supposed to fall into the water. They calculated the speed on that. Now they could be wrong. There's that side of the coin. They could be wrong about everything, and we could absolutely get a 150, 300-foot high wave or swell. But just based off of what they said and based off of what has gone on with this island for the last few hundred years, again, it's not something to be overly concerned about. It's something to watch. Definitely. We shouldn't be ignoring it, but we shouldn't be overplaying it either. So one of the things I found very interesting about the the southwest flank of the island set to fall off, is that piece of the island had dropped 13 feet in the past and stopped and hasn't moved in a while. The crazy thing about it is if it continues to fall off or break away, if you will, it could break away and drop another 5 feet. It could drop another 10, it could drop another 20 over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So to be alarmed about this now, I think is a bit premature. But I'm also doing this so that people can pass this information along, because I don't think it's as bad as it needs to be, or it's as bad as it's going to be. Sorry. So here's what the information I dug up. Some of you noticed, some of you don't. By the way, Inshira, we are recording now, just to let you know. So this Canary Islands sits 700 miles northwest of the African coast, right? And that's off the west coast of Africa. It sits 1,500 miles from, 1,000 miles from Spain. Eruptions in the past, this is the fault line that they're talking about, is at the southern ridge of the Canary Island. The last eruption actually caused a nice crack in the fault line. This is why they're nervous about it. Again, The fault line from that crack moved 13 feet and hasn't moved since then. The fault line from on the Canary Islands, sorry, La Palma, that is 6,000 feet above sea level. So 6,000 feet above sea level, if it happens to crash into the ocean, it would move at speeds up to 400 miles an hour while entering the ocean, is what would cause a tsunami here. Now, again, from it falling into the ocean on that side of the world and the energy transferring through the waves, or through the water particles, sorry, to this side, it would lose its steam, it would lose some energy. So being that it would lose some energy, again, it's not the grand waves you think we're going to see. They did the measurements on who's going to get what, and we'll definitely entertain that in a bit. Sorry. So Tina put up in the chat section, tsunami.gov, right? www.tsunami.gov. You could absolutely look that up. You can also look up the theoretical model of a tsunami. This is by Modern Survival Blog. I looked at that before. That's, again, not even close to true. And this is according, again, to two scientists who've done their research on it. So it's stuff like this that gets people nervous, because people are sitting there going, well, it says it's going to be 300 feet. Again, according to two scientists, and there's even a third scientist named Bill McGuire, who's from the same university as Ward and I forgot Day. The two scientists, Day and Ward, they came from University of London, right? And McGuire comes in there, and nobody, these guys who are the experts, no one's talking about a 300-foot tsunami. Again, I think some scientists here are trying to say that, but I'm going off the math that these guys use to calculate what we're going to see. So moving right along. They think, guys, the next major eruption is going to cause the flank to fall off into the water. Again, we don't know that, right? The next major eruption could be today, right now, or again, 200 years from now. So we are trying to, a lot of us are keeping tabs of what's going on in the Palma Island. And there's actually a bunch of YouTube channels that are showing it live. So you should absolutely follow that if you want. And it's again, it's happening in real time. So you're watching a volcano erupt or lie, I guess, sleeping for a couple hours that it sleeps and then it wakes up again. It's pretty interesting to watch, but you could definitely look at that. So the fault line is 9 miles long. If that landmass gives way, it would be the most catastrophic thing we've ever seen in our lifetime. And that's just a flank falling off. We're not even talking about the tsunami. We're just talking about a landmass the size of Manhattan falling off into the ocean. So that would absolutely be something interesting to watch. There is a couple of, again, issues with it falling off, but hold on real quick. I got water boiling. Oh, shit. All right. Apologize for that, guys. So, again, I think it would be a very interesting event to see this happen in the Canary Islands. But again, I'm not worried about it. And I know a lot of people are on a few people have emailed me and or texted me about, like warning systems and things like that. Now, the one warning system is the one Tina just put up. That's the Tsunami Warning Center that our government monitors, though I've been also hearing that our tsunami warning system is not that great. You can also use, believe it or not, guys, you can also use Twitter as well. You can follow the Canary Islands on Twitter. And if anything catastrophic happens there, you will know about it via Twitter. The only problem is you're not going to get a special notification. You're going to get a notification that, let's say, Canary Islands Twitter page has a new update or some shit like that, or has a new announcement. You can look at it. You can look at it that way. So you'll just have to stay abreast of what's going on. But nonetheless, that little warning system or notification could have you get ready for what's coming and leave. Go ahead, Inshira.
So is what you're saying that, something the size of Manhattan would have to fall off in order for it to be catastrophic enough to cause a tsunami over here, and the chances of that happening is still very unlikely, even with this activity recently?
So yes, if this flank falls off, let's just say, worst case scenario, it falls off at the amount of land that actually falls off, right? So the size of Manhattan falls off in the ocean, and it reaches speeds of 400 miles an hour while entering the ocean, it will cause a tsunami here. Now, the two guys who did the paper said that a lot of the energy would be lost by the time it got here, right? Even the guy, Bill McGuire, again, that's the third guy who wasn't on the paper, but talked about it, said that we would get at best 80-foot waves or swells. Now, 80 feet of water is a lot of water, right? That's an 8-story building for the most part. So it's still a lot of water, but the fact that they also calculated that the amount of energy would be lost, you don't hear anybody else talking about that. You only hear people talking about this one giant wave. Now, the Modern Survival blog, this guy wrote this article, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote it a while back. Don't know where he got his information from, but the one thing that I had to say is that it's not the first wave that's going to actually kill everybody or kill a lot of people, but it's multiple waves behind it, right? So people keep thinking it's just one swell that comes in and then that's it. Anything that's coming across the ocean at that magnitude is going to have various waves behind it, right? And so they will absolutely vary in height or swelling, if you will. So a lot of people don't talk about that. That's the bigger danger. It's the constant assault that the East Coast is going to be seeing over the next couple of hours, right? So it also takes, and that's the other thing too, it also takes 9 hours. You hear people saying 6 hours, 7 hours. The two guys, again, that did the paper says it's anywhere between 8 to 9 hours. And every second counts when you're trying to run from something like this. So giving people the correct information, and the information's out there. The problem is, I don't know where people are seeing this kind of, the 300 feet shit. I'm really in awe about that. Or one person said 1,000 feet. So again, 1,000 feet would have to be, pretty much like the Northern
Empire State Building, or
something the size of Texas falling into the water.
Oh, okay, in terms of size. So
yeah.
what, like, worst case scenario, let's say we get that 8-9 hour warning. What do you recommend people in New York City do if that warning does come through?
Leave. Get on your bicycles, get your feet going and get out of there. You figure you would have 8 hours to get out, right? So if it happens and you get a notification the minute it happens, then you got 9 hours to boogie. And you could do some damage in 5 hours. You figure you could walk anywhere between 9 to 10 miles in 5 hours. So if you have 8 to 9 hours to leave, you're gonna get out of there. I know most people can't keep their speed of walking up after, I think 3 hours is it? So the average person walks 3 miles an hour. You figure in 3 hours, you'll be 9 miles. right? And in 4, you'll be 12. 5, you'll be 15, and you should be at a safe distance. So the waves that they calculate were in meters. And the north, first of all, Florida would be taking the biggest hit. They'd be seeing 20 to 25 meter waves, right? That's around 80 something feet of water. The rest of the East Coast will see 10 to 25 meters. Again, depends on where we are. New York City, I'm speculating because we have the Hudson River, we'd probably see 25, 30 meter wave or swell of water because the water would bottleneck at the Hudson River and rise a lot higher than expected. We've seen that a couple times in China with certain areas when they had a tsunami and how that wave bottlenecked in that area and it rose up pretty fast because there was not a lot of place for that pressure to move. Now, I know some people who are watching this he updated the article, model tsunami. They model tsunamis at, okay, so Tina's saying, so modern survival blog, they modeled tsunami 75, 150, 250, and 300 feet. Right. So currently at where we stand right now, we're not seeing a 300-foot tsunami, right? You would need a bigger landmass because it all comes down to size. So what they did in the article, and the article is called Cumbre Vieja Volcano, Potential Collapse and Tsunami at La Palma, Canary Islands. This is the study they did back in 2001. When you read the study, they did the, that nerd math, that fucking X equals whatever the fuck it is, velocity. They did that, and that's where they came up with the height of the tsunami. And this is their max, right? You got to keep in mind too, the landmass that's looking to break off, not all of it might break off at the same time. It might snap in half and we only get half of Manhattan falling into the ocean. Or it slides into the ocean so slowly, we don't get anything. Now, these guys gave us the worst case scenario. But again, 300-foot waves, the guy has to reference where he's got that information from.
I mean, I would think even a 10 or 20-foot wave would be kind of catastrophic on the level that Hurricane Sandy was in terms of the subways and the shore parts of Brooklyn and most of lower Manhattan. Even if we got just 10 or 20% of the worst case scenario, it would be a problem for the city. And we got a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to answer that. What if it happens at night?
Well, so sleep, right. So that's the thing, Mike. If it happens at night, I hate that. This is the simplest answer I can give people. If it happens at night and you don't have the notification system, your Twitter notification system on or the tsunami notification system on, you're fucked. That's as simple as that. There's no, preppers especially, but a lot of people want, this magic hope pill to get them out of every situation. Unfortunately, if something like this happens at night, we are getting our asses handed to us. That's it. I stay up late at night, so I have a bit of an advantage, but that's me, right? That's not everybody else. My Twitter notification for the Canary Islands is on, and just that one. So hopefully I hear it, tweet at night, and I get up and look and go, oh shit, and then I bounce. But that's me. Right now, I'm not even worried about it, so I don't have the Twitter notification or the tsunami, what you call it, email, because you can set the email for the tsunami.gov notification. So the email will ping and it'll go to your screen. You can set your email to do that, because that's the best way you can. And then, by the time they gather all that information, send that email out, a half hour, 45 minutes might have been lost. But still, you have 7 to 8 hours to get the hell out of Dodge, right? But if it happens at night and you are unaware, guys, unfortunately, you're going to bite the bullet. Or if you're stuck in the city, you're going to have to go to high ground. Walking sidewalks, we have to get the high elevation. Yeah. right?
Yeah, some high ground points
Right.
like Fort Washington up in Manhattan. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty high. Fort Greene, Fort all the forts kind of look for a fort.
The George Washington Bridge might be your best bet as well. The Spite and Dival Bridge, that might be your best bet as well. Again, Millionaire Row, if you can make it to those buildings, that might be your best bet as well. You know, that those buildings are like 100 and something feet high. So actually 100 stories high. So not 100 feet high, sorry. 100 stories high. So it's like 1,000 feet, right? Give or take. 100 times 10, like 10 feet is approximately an apartment, right? So 50 feet is 5 stories, right? So yeah, you have 1,000 feet. If you can get to one of those buildings before the water comes in and rush to at least the 80th, not even the 80th floor, the 8th floor, right? So Karen, can you access those buildings? That's the kicker. You might just have to push past the doorman. Fuck it. It's the Millionaire Row are apartment buildings, so there's always access to them. And I do not see any of those people in those buildings telling you you can't come in. Not an apartment building. Now, an office building, again, guys, break the glass, get inside, and make it up to at least the 8th floor. And then as you see the water coming up, you just keep moving up, you know, up the stairs, right? You might have to walk all the way up to the 50th, 60th, 70th floor, right? But I wouldn't expect the water getting that high. So those are your backup plans. Your first plan is to get the hell out of the what you call it, take the elevator. Yeah, Danny, you could take the elevator, or you could wind up completely screwing yourself if you
Right.
get into the
No,
elevator,
take that.
the water rushes in, like right behind you, and then you're stuck, right? So don't take the elevator, take the stairs. Never ever take the elevator in an emergency, especially if the power is going to start cutting out and now you're trying to make your way up, right? I think it's just a poor choice. There's a lot of things that can happen with power going out. Stay out of the elevator. We've learned that lesson the hard way in a couple of situations. So
I'd also, suggest getting life vests. That's a prep that I got because I don't know how to swim and my family really doesn't. A few members do, but if you don't have life vests, get them. Just not even for tsunami, just in general.
okay, so here's I entertained the vest thing as well, and one thing dawned on me: look at tsunami video footage. Look at all the garbage that comes along with it. You might float, but you might also get crushed by whatever's floating with you, whether that be a boat.
Yeah,
Cars.
not that it would save you from debris, but if once the rescue team comes, et cetera, if you're trying to get out after the water comes down.
Right, that makes more sense. Absolutely. Now, someone says, how do you get into the floors from the stairs? A lot of them, especially in these apartment buildings, they're open. They're open both ways. I think, if I'm not mistaken, even office buildings opened them both ways after 9/11, because at 9/11, that was one of the problems. The doors were closed from the inside, and now people couldn't get in to access the stairs on the other side of the building. So if I'm not, I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I think they have them open on both sides. Oh my, we need to. Yeah, Angel said being in Queens sucks. Yeah, guys. So listen, you hear this shit, you're gonna have to get to high ground, wherever high ground might be. You can also entertain a raft. Again, the problem with a raft is that you are competing or battling with debris, right? And a lot of that debris is sharp and heavy and can crush you. So it's an option, but it's an option you have to know that something bad can happen, while you're sitting safely in that boat or raft, sorry. Karen, we could do an in-person meeting. You know what? We can actually do an in-person meeting and we can do a legit walk around. So that would be, because then I can actually show you guys what I'm fucking talking about, as opposed to sitting here on here. So we could set that up and see where it goes from there. But a lot of the apartment buildings, just so that you guys know, are easier to access, guys. They're not ironclad. They're not like an office building. You know, an office building on a Sunday afternoon is usually locked up. There's always a guard in there, though. Always, right? So a lot of the big office buildings, right, like the ones downtown on 42nd Street and the what you call it, financial district, there's always a guard in there. So someone's going to let you in if you tell them, you know, there's a tsunami coming, get to high ground. They'll most likely let you in, unless they're a complete coward and then they run upstairs and leave you outside. You also got to account for people's cowardice that can also affect you as well, right? Maybe the guy heard about the tsunami and he already took off, you know? So again, trying to throw as many variables as I can, because with a situation like this, guys, there are so many variables, it's insane. And we could think of 100 of them and there might be 200 more, right? So you have to play chess with variables like this. You know, again, going back to the whole falsehood of tsunamis, I find it interesting that there are a lot of people there who, you know, I don't know, guys, looking at the modern survival blog, I'm calling bullshit on it. Simple as that. You know, I looked at that blog a while ago, and even in the blog, he says he gives you a drawing, not a drawing, but a diagram of a tsunami hitting 167 feet, and then follows it up with a 300-foot tsunami later in the article. I'm like I said, nowhere on the research I've done did anybody talk about a 300-foot, or even I even heard someone mention 1,000-foot tsunami. Like, you know what a fucking 1,000-foot is? That's fucking that ends the East Coast, and it can go as far inland and as Ohio, right? So that's pretty fucking bad. That's ending pretty much half of the United States. Yes, Daniel, exactly. 100 stories tall. And 100 stories, listen, 1,000 feet, that must be moving at phenomenal speeds too. That's the other thing. For it to be that high and continue that energy, it would have to be moving at phenomenal speeds, where even if we got into the Millionaire Row buildings downtown, it would probably wipe those buildings out just because of the amount of energy and force behind that swell or wave hitting the buildings would crush a lot of them. So again, you know, if you hear anybody talking about 1,000 feet, no, thank you. Right. So thank you for bringing that up, Tina. They said that Florida would see, well, actually, it was the Indonesia tsunami that, what was it, Sri Lanka, right? That got swallowed up. That's what they would see. Sorry, Florida would see. Or better, sorry, or better. So again, Florida is for whatever reason seems to be like fuck. No matter where I read, Florida is the one state that just seems to get washed over, and everybody else fends for themselves. You know, they see less of a wave. I know they said Spain and England sees a 5 to 7 meter wave. The west coast of Africa will see 50 to 100-meter wave. That's pretty fucking high. Then you have northern coast and east coast of South America, which would be Brazil to Venezuela, will see 15 to 20 meters of water. So again, a lot of people, not just the United States, would be fucked. But if something like this was to happen, everybody else would be on their own. They wouldn't be getting aid from the United States like they normally do. England would probably lend aid to the United States. Let's see who else. Who else is on our side? Maybe Australia. Probably not Australia. They're bad. Japan would give us aid. There's a couple of countries that might give us aid, though I think the United States would be able to handle this disaster if it happened to us. Almost an hour after the earthquake, the first tsunami wave hit. Right, and then repeated after that. Then travel 6 miles inland. Reach heights of 128. The waves reached the heights of 128. and then travel 6 miles. So 128 is feet of water is a lot, right? Like I said, guys, we could absolutely be seeing that, but keep in mind, what was the mile? Sorry, the earthquake in Japan. How far off the coast was it? Right, because you have to keep that in mind. We're talking about a piece of land crashing into the ocean on the other side of the planet, traveling all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. Loses energy after a while, right? So that's the bigger part of it. And that's why the 300-foot tsunami wave doesn't make sense, like at all. Because thinking about it scientifically, energy is always lost. And if they did the math on the size of land that would take to crash in the ocean to cause this energy to create a 300 miles, we're talking about probably even maybe the whole island of, or an island size of La Palma was to crash into the ocean, you might get a 300-foot wave. Might. Keep in mind, guys, energy is lost through this transfer. And if you have currents under the ocean that are moving in opposite direction, if you have, and that's the bigger one, the current in the ocean moving in opposite directions, competing with this energy coming across, it's definitely going to cut that energy in half, if not to nothing, where we might just get a 10-foot, swell. There's that too, Tina. I didn't think about that. Did not think about Long Island actually protecting us. That's a good one. That's something good to think about. So in Long Island, there's probably a buffer or a sandbar that would slow the wave from hitting New York City. But remember, it's more of a swell. So it's the amount of pressure going in through the harbor into the Hudson River. So that's what we have to contend with. Another reason why being in Queens sucks. Listen, guys. Again, the likeliness of this happening, it's there, but it's not alarming. It's nothing to be scared about. It's nothing to overthink. As preppers, we prepare for situations like this, but we also, at least for me, I don't overthink it. I sit there and go, all right, that shit can happen. Then what? I get ready for the possibility of it happening, and then I move along, right? We have the parts of Yellowstone's been acting up the last couple of days. Guys, it could fucking rock and roll tomorrow, or again, it could rock and roll in 100 years from now. We don't fucking we don't get, how you say, obsessive about shit like this. We just keep it in the back of our heads, and if it pops off, we know how to react. That's all we're doing with this. I'm not worried about the Canary Islands at all. I'm not even, like, I still watch the volcano activities from time to time, but I'm not concerned. If it happens, it happens, and if it happens, we're going to do what we do best, adapt and get the fuck out of there. That's it. It's that simple. All right, guys. So any questions? Why gets a lot of tsunamis? Notice over here. Yeah, I noticed Hawaii gets a lot of notifications that like pan out to be nothing. And that's one problem that I hate about those notification systems, at least with Hawaii, is that they get a lot of those warnings, but then if you keep crying wolf, and then the real one comes and no one reacts to it because they're like, hasn't happened since the 60s. Now you're sort of like fucking people because you're getting them used to a notification system that's not notifying them of anything anymore, right? So they start to downplay it as well. I know here we're not downplaying this if we hear tsunamis coming to New York City. That's not being downplayed. Everybody's getting in their car and boogieing. And guys, here's the other thing. So you live in New York City. The shit is on. The fucking flank or the shelf collapses into the ocean. How are you getting out of the city? Now, I did a video on this yesterday and I completely botched it, so I have to do it again. But when I talked about people getting out in my video last week as well, I talked about getting out using electric scooters or bikes, right? Your car might not be an option. but I can almost guarantee that not a lot of people are up on what's going on or even care what's going on. And so the small community of people, us and a few other people who are watching the Canary Islands, will be getting out of this city first. Now, obviously, you're going to use your cars, but I would almost employ people to use electric scooters. They're easy to store away. You can attach them to your car. You take your car as far as you possibly can. For my case, the George Washington Bridge, for example. The George Washington Bridge is backed up with traffic and no one's moving. Well, then we get on the e-scooters and we dip through. Thing about e-scooters, you can also carry them. So they're not as heavy as one would think. They're going to get you to a safe distance away from danger. And then the batteries might die and then you're on foot the rest of the way. But at least if that e-scooter or e-bike can get you out of the city and put you at a, let's say, 10-mile distance before it dies off, which I know they go farther than that. Let's just say your e-bike and scooter was shit and it died off after 10 miles. Within the first 2 hours of you getting out of the city, now you still have another 5-6 hours to play with. And with that, you're going to get to the safe distance in no time. Right. So I would add, technology today, guys, allowed us to now change our plan, right? Before e-bikes and e-scooters, this wasn't a part of my plan. I was planning to use my car, and then once traffic bogged down or locked me in, I would leave on foot. We would leave on foot. But now the technology has advanced. Now we have e-bikes and e-scooters. We even if you want to get crazy, you can even get one wheels, right? One wheel to high-speed vehicles. You can even get on one of those and get yourself out of there, right? So technology is great. Technology will save your life. Technology will also cause you to die in certain instances, right? Like blocking out the sun, shit like that. But
Jason,
yes,
this is Daniel.
I know.
The focus on distance is not really useful in a tsunami scenario. Height is what you need, not distance, height. So if you cross the George Washington Bridge and then go into one of those 30-story buildings on the other side, on the Jersey side,
Right.
you're safe even from the 1,000-foot tsunami.
Right. But distance plays a role if they tell you that the water's going to go as far as 12 miles in, right? So if you're 15 miles in,
No,
what do you mean no?
well, it's depending on how high. The flatlands of Jersey, it'll go beyond 15 miles in the flatlands because that's the nature of water. It just keeps going and going and going until it
Right.
finds something even just a foot taller than the water. A foot, 1 foot is all it takes. So height is your friend, not distance.
Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to beg to differ on that because it's both height and distance, right? But I say 12 miles in because a lot of New Jersey is above, well, at least over here on the northern edge, it's above sea level. I think something like anywhere between 50, 60 feet. And obviously, if the further away from that water you go, it's not going to wash in. So example, Tina just gave a good example of how far reached inland in Japan. It was 6 miles in. Japan, I mean, it is mountainous and has elevation, but nonetheless, it still only went in 6 miles. So if you're at the 7-mile mark, guess what's not reaching you, right? That's why they talk about. That's why they talk. Go ahead.
If you're at the 7-mile mark in the Meadowlands, you're going to be underwater. That's the way the Meadowlands is. It's a shallow swamp.
Right. So the Meadowlands is across from the Lincoln Tunnel,
Right.
and the GWB is across from the Palisades. So if you take the GWB, you already have
you're great.
height.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge.
But if you take the tunnels, you are pretty much
still
at sea level.
underwater. Yes, the tunnels are underwater, literally, as it is right now.
So if you can't get further inland, as Jason's suggesting, Daniel's saying, go up in height at the Jersey City, but then you're a little bit stranded.
Jersey City's bad.
Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
they have high towers there, right? So you're saying just get height, but if you stop in Jersey City or right across the river, you're pretty much going to be surrounded by the water for weeks, as opposed to going further inland, or just using the GWB, which is, I feel like, the best option.
And that's why I said distance. You separating distance from yourself in the danger. It's again, Daniel, you can argue till you're blue in the face, but like you normally do. But in this case, I would have to say you're wrong. because if I go 20 miles in, right, or 25 miles in, the water's not going to reach me. It's that simple, right?
If you're in
So
the Meadowlands area, 25 miles, yes, you're going to be underwater, Jason.
but
Water works that way.
The Meadowlands is not 25 miles in. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
You're arguing about something that doesn't exist. The Meadowlands is not 25 miles from the river. Thank you. So
I
now
agree.
that
Right.
being said, if you go and you're going west too, so keep in mind, guys. I'm sorry. Let me walk this back a little bit. You're walking 25 miles. God bless you if you can do that. But if you're walking that far, or you're taking your car that far, you're taking your e-bike that far, you're going west, right? You're not going north. You're not going south. You're going directly west, right? And with that, you're going to distance yourself from the danger. It's that simple, right? And obviously, if you're walking west or you're driving west, you're going to run in the hills, you're going to run in the mountains, you're going to run into a lot of things that are going to stop the water, but the water should not have reached 25 miles. Now, yeah, you're using the Meadowlands as a badass example because it's super close to the Hudson River. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, as far as the crow flies, the Meadowlands is probably 3 miles from the river, maybe 4. It's not that far. I think 5 at most. Sorry, 5 at most. And it's not that far, right? So again, distance is your friend as well if you cannot get the height.
A secondary consideration,
And
assuming you,
and again,
assuming you,
this is I'm looking at the scientists who have done the math. So unless been studying Canary Islands for 20 years and you've done the math, by all means, show me that math. And then
favoring your argument, Jason, is the fact that after the tsunami, assuming you survive everybody here is likely to survive the wave. What is not going to be survivable for New York City is the after effect, the destruction of the entire infrastructure. No drinking water, no electricity for months at a minimum, years for the outer boroughs. Who can live in a city with no drinking water and no electricity?
well, yeah, then you don't come back.
Right?
It's that simple, right? I mean, listen, I'm coming back, right? Because I have to. It's part of the job. But a lot of people, I would suggest, wouldn't or shouldn't come back. Now, do you think, I mean, I don't know how long it would take for them to get a lot of that shit online, but
all the transformers, all the infrastructure underwater, or swept away, damaged by the force of all that stuff floating in the in the waves. Repeated waves. Remember, the water's unsanitary, the electricity's out, and also then there's the mold problem. After the water recedes, you've got mold literally in every single building.
right. So then we tackle it according to what's going on. Listen, man, the human race has gotten this far. I'm pretty sure we can accomplish getting New York back on track. Yes, it would take probably 20, 30 years to do so, but we would get New York City back on track. Because, yeah, you're right. The aftermath is the bad part, but we all know that. We watched it happen in Sandy. We watched it happen in Japan. When I mean Sandy, I mean the flooding and the amount of shit those people are still dealing with till this day after Hurricane Sandy. So, yeah, we've seen that aftermath, but it's going to be handled. It's the least of our problems. I think our major problem right now would be getting out of the path of this thing. But again, I'm not worried about this. I'm really not. I know certain people are, and all I can do is tell you the research I found. We need to stop believing certain preppers and prepper sites and stop repeating shit that's not even true. Or if you're going to repeat that information, say that it's a possibility, right? I mean, at the very least. But people are reading that Modern Survival blog and then turning around and saying a 300-foot tsunami is going to happen, as opposed to saying it's possible. Now, anything is possible. 1,000-foot tsunamis are possible, but that's not where we are, right? Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but fortunately, the guys who have been researching this have done the math. And according to their math, we're not going to see anything over, I would say, 100 feet. They could be wrong, though, right? They could be wrong. But we got to go with the evidence we have in front of us and not start making up shit, right? Now, it's interestingly enough, just a side note, I started doing research on a video called Fear, right? how fear controls you. And there are a lot of governments out there that look to control you through fear, right? Obviously, the current pandemic and the shit going on, it's all being controlled through fear. Prepper channels and or preppers do the same shit. They use the same exact tactic to push their storyline, if they will, or their findings on certain things and get you scared to buy their product and get you scared to watch their videos so that you become attached to them. And when prepper sites or channels do shit like this, I have a fucking giant bone to pick, because a lot of prepper channels, a lot of you remember 2012, the world was going to end, right? The planet was going to either crack in half, the polar, was going to shift, we were going to see tsunamis, we were going to see the black hole open up in the middle of nowhere. There was so many fucking stupid ideologies and things being said because people were pushing fear. This is the same fucking boat, right? The same boat is people are pushing fear on this tsunami that could happen or might not happen. And we have to know that the possibility of it happening is there, but we shouldn't be dwelling on this shit for the length of time, or for the end of time. We shouldn't be sitting there going, oh my God, this is going to happen. And then tomorrow morning you wake up and it's the same thing. No, just know that it can happen and move the fuck along. Simple as that. The fear mongering on every side, whether it's the government, preppers, some asshole that wants you to buy, his life alert system or whatever it is, it's what we need to stay away from, and we need to be responsible. And Shira, go ahead.
So quick question on the e-bikes, in any particular brands or type that you recommend, or they all pretty much the same?
Yeah, you know what? You can go with the name brand ones like Specialized. I know they're starting to make them now. I was a little surprised. I think Cannondale, they're making them as well. But if you don't want to spend that money, because Cannondale and Specialized bikes are super expensive. If you don't want to spend that money, you can go with a cheaper brand, and as long as the cheaper brand's battery holds, it's all you really need. You don't want to pay for just the name, right? I saw a pedal assist bike on the 343 ride I did last week. I thought that was pretty interesting. It assists in you pedaling and is not motorized, if that makes sense, right? You can also get one of those. That's a little cheaper.
That's what I thought you were talking about. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, those are like 1,500, the pedal assist.
Yes.
All right.
Or Daniel, that's a good one. You could take a city bike, right? They have motorized city bikes now. You could definitely take one of those and never return it, right? I mean, I don't think they would care. But the one thing about city bikes that I'm unaware of, and this is just a question, hopefully someone can answer this for me. Is there a Okay, that's what he said. Is it geofence, right? So if you leave New York City and get into Jersey, will it cut off on you? That's one of my bigger questions. And if it doesn't, take the bike and go, right? Tina, I would get an e-bike and use my bug out bag, my backpack as my cargo hold, if you will, because you don't want to be trailing anything around. You really don't. If you're trying to get out of Dodge, you're trying to get out of Dodge in a hurry. A trailer or anything like that attached to it is just going to complicate matters, especially if you have to climb over something, or let's say their car is blocking the road completely. To sit there and have a wagon of some sort attached to your bike, and now you're passing all that shit over. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. That's why I say go with e-scooters, because e-scooters are lighter. You can jump over the car with them and keep going, right? E-bikes are heavy. They are really fucking heavy. And if you can't lift it, you're fucked. Now, a lot of us can lift it, but there are a lot of people who can't lift it. So keep that in mind when you're shopping around and you're looking at these things. Like I know city bikes by nature are heavy. By nature, they're heavy. So the motorized ones, they have to be like tanks. So again, if you can't lift it, don't buy it. Let's put it like that. All right, guys. So we are almost at the hour mark, I think. I hate that there's no timer on this thing. But
yeah, it's 12:05.
12:05. All right. Yeah. So other than that, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. You guys know what's going on. Listen, we should probably do another in-house meeting. The church I'm using, I don't think we'll be using them anymore, just because I think they changed their COVID rules and they became, the ultimate COVID cowards. So I'd rather not deal with them, especially in their rules. The whole emergency preparedness retreat thing, I don't know what to do with that anymore because a lot of places have changed their rules. And now they want you to rent out the entire cabin as opposed to just what we used to do, rent out the rooms. And I know why they did that. They did that because of COVID. So I sort of get it, but then again, guys, COVID is here to stay. So the amount of shit we're doing for COVID is just asinine and annoying. But I'm going to try to think of a better plan. I'm going to try to look into like Airbnb kind of style homes and see if we can do anything with that. All right, guys. So other than that, thank you for joining me today. That's the end of the meeting. I have to go now. I got to go to Connecticut. So thank you guys for participating, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jason. Good job.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks all. Good night.
Bye. Oh, Lordy, Tiger, you are a monster sometimes.